We will be talking about the closure of Y Project and really just talking about the brand and kind of how we feel about the brand and really just remembering the brand. In solidarity with the brand, I shall be wearing my favorite sunglasses in my collection. This is a collaboration with Y Project and Linda Farrow. So if you are watching it back, you have the provided context as to why I'm wearing sunglasses indoors like a madman. But anyway, we're gonna wear these in solidarity with Y Project today. But today should be a good fun stream. It should be a fun stream because, we're talking about fashion I actually love. I'm no longer critiquing. Let me just wear these sunglasses quickly. I'm no longer critiquing a brand, a luxury brand that I think, is horrible, or we're not talking about bad quality things, at least not for now. So yeah, how is everyone doing though? How did everyone take to the news with Y Project closing down? How do you guys feel about that? Via their Instagram, as you guys can see here, and they made a statement. So it says, "It is with great gratitude and sadness that the Y Project team announces we will be officially closing the brand after 14 incredible years. We could not have achieved such success without the unwavering support of our Y Project partners, collaborators, and fans, and we cannot extend enough thanks to you for your unwavering dedication throughout the years. We especially want to thank Glenn Martens and Pascal Contejodra and the late Giles E. Lalouf and Johan Safety for giving us Y Project and the chance to create and grow together." And like they said, pictured here is Glenn Martens and the past and present Y Project team dressed in fall winter 24 and unreleased spring summer 2025. Now, first thing I want to go over, because I saw a big point that people were saying, like a big conversation people are having, was that why wouldn't there be an investor? Why isn't there an investor that wants to buy into Y Project? Because Y Project is a brand that a lot of people in fashion love. A lot of people in fashion are very interested in the brand, and I think it's a brand that, is respected in fashion circles. However, when you look deeper as to the reason why they closed in the first place, they were in serious financial trouble. Really, really bad financial trouble. I was reading an article via BOF where they reported that the company was placed in receivership in September last year following the death of the co-founder and owner at the time, Giles E. Lalouf. Last June, he is actually one of the co-founders, and he's more like the business person. Like, he was the business brains of the brand, right? And when something goes into receivership, for people that don't know, it is actually quite serious. It's when someone essentially is put in charge of a company to kind of recoup lost funds. So of course that means they were in serious debt, and that was someone in charge of possessing the assets to try and get the money that someone is owed. So obviously massive financial issues. Now, if you buy a company like that in those kind of issues, you would have to pay off the debt first before even thinking about any sort of financial profits or what we're going to do with the brand. So it's not a very lucrative thing. It was almost in a position where if you're investing in that brand, it's more of like a passion project than anything to do with thinking about making any sort of money, at least not in the near future. So that's why mainly there wasn't an investor, because I know a lot of people are asking those questions, Y Project, people love the brand, but the business realities of the brand meant that, it didn't really make a lot of sense to start the brand, to be honest. So yeah, that's essentially what happened. Of course, they had recent clearance sales in Paris as they were getting rid of excess stock, and those were huge. People were buying things at really, really good prices and, buying a lot of their grails for nice prices. So that was good for some people, I guess, that were there to capitalize on that. But yeah, it's really, really sad. I mean, I'm a big fan of Y Project. I have been a big fan since I learnt about the brand. So yeah, it's really sad. And it just shows you the really harsh realities of the fashion industry, where it's so hard to be successful in this industry. Y Project is a company that, had over 150 stockists at one point. And even with all those stockists, still, they couldn't really weather the storm. It's insane that you can have that many stockists, you can scale to that size and still have issues. It's really, really crazy to me. I think Dion Lee also failed to find a buyer. Could it be a not standalone event? I mean, you also need to consider that luxury in general has seen major downturns. That's why all the conglomerates are feeling it. Even the massive conglomerates that have the money to weather the storm, they are suffering it too. I mean, look at Kering, look at LVMH. So in general, across the board, we have seen a downtick in people buying luxury in droves, and the growth has definitely slowed down. So I think it's always going to affect smaller companies and smaller brands than it will affect, the big, massive companies, because they can always weather the storm in the short term. Over the long term is a different conversation, but 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they have the capital to really weather those storms. So yeah, that's kind of what has been going on. Boaz says the difference between Dion Lee and Y Project is that Dion Lee is just a small brand, but Y Project made the noise of a big brand. I mean, it's not just the noise. They also had the stockists that would suggest they were quite a well-to-do brand. Like having over 150 stockists worldwide is crazy. Not saying that all that money goes to them. I've told you guys about some of the terrible contracts and deals that some of these, young brands sign, especially when you don't have leverage on your side. So not everything is in their favor, but still, there's no tiny brand that has 150 stockists worldwide, to be honest. At that point, you're definitely making millions. And kind of what Tarek is saying, it just hits the smaller companies harder. Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, it's really, really sad, like I've said. Y Project somehow is how Margiela would have looked like if it was launched in 2015 in a way. I mean the same spirit. Yeah, I mean, because Martin used to do that thing too, right? Taking everyday items and changing them slightly. Like Margiela used to take like denim jackets and then deconstruct them and change the context of it, right? So that's kind of similar to what Glenn Martens is doing, which is why I think Glenn Martens would be a great fit at Margiela. Even though that hasn't been announced, like who exactly is going to replace John Galliano, I still think that Glenn Martens would be an amazing fit. And it also makes sense because he's at Diesel already. So same company. Yeah, so I'm saying even the video you were showing, Margiela did it already. Yes, he did. Many times, actually. I don't think Y Project is as sophisticated as Margiela. I guess you can say that, but I don't think they're trying to achieve the same thing. I think the aesthetic of Y Project is a bit more playful than what Margiela is. It's a bit more witty than what Margiela is. So I don't think it's exactly the same. I really wanted to buy Y Project pieces a couple times, but in store, the proportions were all wrong for me. Yeah, I mean, that's also a thing, right? Some of the stuff, because it's so wacky, some of the stuff does fit really awkwardly. So it's really weird to find, your size of clothing. That's actually a big reason why I don't own any clothing from Y Project. I just have like accessories, like these sunglasses, because I like what they do, but a lot of the stuff didn't fit. But everything that they make is still really fun. Like even these sunglasses are so fun. Like the design is so like cool. I'll show you guys if you guys can see like a close up of it. Like this collaboration with Linda Farrow. Really, really cool. Also, I think you can draw parallels between Johan and Glenn Martens' work. When you think of Glenn Martens' background, right? Glenn Martens is someone that studied interior architecture. And like I said, early on in Y Project, when you look at the history, there very much was this sort of sharp angular lines with a lot of the pieces. And I think what Glenn Martens brought to the brand was this very sculptural shape with a lot of the pieces. And I do think that a lot of that is inspired by him just studying interior architecture and all the references to a lot of architectural periods. But yeah, this is the denim that I first saw on someone that I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Let me learn about this brand. Because you can style them in so many different ways. And that was something that I just really loved. I like garments that you don't have to buy new things. You can just wear the same thing a million different ways. That's always different cool, especially if the ways that you can style them are actually very interesting, not what everyone does. I feel like the most basic version of that is when people do like removable sleeves and stuff like that. That's not really that interesting. Like even what I'm wearing, like the Andamina piece, it's not that interesting. It's like a zip across the sleeves. There's more, like Y Project used to make garments where you could do a lot more than that. Completely detachable compartments. You can even change the length of the dress. You also see the technique on the right hand side again, back to Johan. Why did they go bump? I thought they sold well. No, they didn't. They didn't. I mean, so there seems to be a disconnect sometimes with a brand having a lot of stockists and them actually making big profits. It doesn't always work that way because once again, some of the deals that they sign with these stockists are not favorable to the brands. And then also how it normally works. Let me just explain how these brands normally operate. So normally what happens is when you expand the brand, let's say you start with 10 stockists and then you go to 40 the next season, then 80 the next season, then 100, then 150. By the time you have 150 stockists, you need to scale the brand to meet that demand. So you need to hire more staff, you need to boost your production, you need to produce more garments with your manufacturing processes, whatever factory you're using, however you're making your clothing. So the worst thing that can ever happen to these brands is if you have a bad season. So what a bad season would look like for a lot of these brands is if you have 150 stockists and then for some reason buyers just don't like the next collection and all of a sudden overnight you go down to 60 stockists. Now remember, you've built the infrastructure for 150 stockists. You've started producing the level of sending garments to 150 stockists. So you now have loads of unnecessary overhead. You have loads of staff members that you probably don't need at this point in time because you're not making the money that would suggest that you need these staff members. And so now there's a problem. Now you're burning a hole in your wallet. And if things don't change very quickly, it's only going to get worse and worse. And with some brands, then the next season it becomes even worse and even worse. And then before you know it, the brand closes down. So sometimes a brand can sell well, but it's not really enough. And sometimes if a brand scales too quickly, they can almost be their worst enemy, where they're one season away from basically decimation. And that is the case with a lot of brands that are existing right now. A lot of the up and coming brands, the smaller brands that show at Milan Fashion Week, they show at Paris Fashion Week, a lot of them are in that position, like loads, more than you think. And starting just having a fashion brand is basically a slot machine with how it all is sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it's a risky business. It's a harsh business. It's very difficult to work out, but once you work it out, you're going to make loads of money. But until you work it out, good luck. Is basically what it is. Yeah, this is also something interesting that Y Project used to do with the wiring. Like a lot of they'll have like blazers that had different wires. I think that's even what they're doing right now, where you can kind of change how the lapels scrunch up. You can kind of change also the bottom of the garments. They used to use that a lot. That was really cool. They used to use a lot of those pieces on a lot of the skirts. Although I have heard from my friends that used to own some of those pieces, they weren't the most comfortable pieces to wear though. Because sometimes like over time, those garments would wear and the wiring would go loose. And sometimes it could scratch on your skin and like so many other things, right? But from an aesthetic standpoint, it's really interesting. Wait, these videos remind me of McQueen, Nick Knight, bridegroom strip. Yo, you know what? Now that you mention it, I see the vision. I see the vision. I wonder why doesn't Nick Knight do more of those kind of what he was doing with McQueen when McQueen was alive? Those kind of just going through the process of like making stuff with designers. That would be really cool because obviously Show Studio do things in a very artsy way that I think would make a lot of sense with the way a lot of designers work. Why doesn't he do that? It would be so interesting if he does that. Like those videos are absolutely goated with McQueen just like working away. Yeah, says the look in the middle was amazing. Yeah, I'm just looking at all the different ways that they can transform these garments. It's so interesting. And once again, before this point, even though obviously I've been a fan of Y Project for a while now, before this point, even though you could do this with the garments, people didn't know. So this was kind of like a very, very good entryway into a lot of the customers actually seeing firsthand the different ways they can work with their garments. But yeah, also something I think should be mentioned when it comes to Y Project, because I think it goes into the styling, is one of the big reasons for Y Project's success, especially in the early days when Glenn Martens had the very smart idea to pivot, is styling. And I think styling is something that is very inherent to the Y Project brand. I think even though styling is like something that is important to every brand, I think you can almost say that styling is a house code when it comes to Y Project, because there were times when in interviews, Glenn Martens would literally say that, you know, there are very strong similarities between menswear and women's wear collections. It's just we styled it in different ways to make it look completely different, and people didn't even realize until he said it. So I found that really interesting.
But yeah, I'm gonna miss Y Project a lot.
Same.
But then you know, like you were saying, you don't own anything from them except for the sunglasses.
Yeah.
I only own the Melissa shoes.
Right.
Like I just because they didn't make trousers in bigger sizes. They only made tops up to extra large when I probably needed a double extra large. Because everything like their t-shirts and stuff were quite slim fitting.
Yeah, very. The people I know that wear Y Project are like really skinny to slim women.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I actually know any man that wears Y Project like ever. Like all the people I know that really wear it are all women.
Yeah, I know some like when I used to work in retail, there was a few like Chinese guys or like Taiwanese guys that would wear it, and it was like the
Right.
jeans. But other than that, like I never really saw anybody wear it. And then that sample sale they had a couple of weeks ago in London, then I saw loads of people wearing it. So
Yeah, it's probably because of the sample sale, but I mean, in general, like the people that I see that are Y Project stands and the people that wear it that I think look very like interesting, they tend to be the women. It's normally women that I see wearing it.
I do like a lot of their stuff. Do you know what? I used to be a hater of Y3 when it first came out.
Why do you mean Y Project?
Yeah, sorry, Y Project.
Okay. I was like, why
Not
three?
Y3. Yeah, I used to be a hater of Y Project because I hated how, like, I think you were talking about it earlier, how he would take like archetypes of wardrobes and just change it a little bit, or he would
Right.
continue an idea over a couple of seasons. And I would get a bit bored. I was like, there's 3 seasons, you've done this like covered fabric idea now, like, do something else. But then I would say, like, the last, probably since he's been at Diesel, actually, I've loved his Y3.
Y Project, you mean?
Y Project, sorry.
You've got Yoji on your mind.
And it's for a pair of shoes today. That's probably what it is. No, I was walking through Bicester Village, and there was a guy. I was like, "Whoa, he's wearing Y3," and he was like a bit of a chav. I'm not gonna lie, and he was in full
Did it look
Y3.
good though? That's what matters. Did it look good?
Yeah, it did actually.
Do you know what's funny with Y3 though? So I only know this because one of my friends is a buyer and he buys Yoji and Y3 and stuff. So the weird thing about Y3 is they went from making really technical garments
Mm.
to over time mirroring Yoji's mainline more and more to the point where it became that Y3 was just making Yoji mainline in cheaper fabrics. So that's when I started buying a lot of Y3 because I couldn't afford Yoji mainline. So I would
Yeah.
buy like the Y3 shorts in the Yoji silhouette. But some of them are annoying because it will be like the Yoji mainline silhouette in a cheaper fabric, but then it would have Y3 embroidered somewhere. And it's like, I don't want Y3 embroidered. I just wanted the shape at a cheaper price. Like,
Mood.
can you remove this? Like, I would always like remove the tags if there are any, but with the embroidery, you just kind of have to deal with it and be pissed off. But I
My
don't know why they
friends are
do
like,
that. They need to stop doing that.
"Oh yeah, but that'll be an Adidas thing. You just know it."
Yeah.
You know, I bet if Yoji had his way, like, wouldn't have it.
But it says Aya doesn't want them to know he isn't wearing real Yoji. No, that's not why. I just don't like logos. I'm not that pretentious. I just don't like logos everywhere. That's why.
He just doesn't like you knowing that he can't afford the big stuff.
Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, exactly. Or have the 3 stripes on Y3 in full caps across a garment sometimes. It's so annoying. It's like the shape is perfect. Let's just reduce the branding slightly. But yeah, it's like you're saying, it's probably an Adidas thing.
I did buy my ex a really fucking hell. Do a live stream thing without talking about an ex. One Christmas, I bought them a cap that was like had a scarf attached to it. That was quite cool, and it was a tone on tone stripe, so you couldn't really see the stripe. I didn't mind that. Some nice little bits. Pretending not to be a person of poverty. Babes, you haven't seen me on a live. I never pretend. You look at Y Project and you think they did make great clothes, and actually, even when you looked at them in store, like I never questioned the actual quality of them. So they had good factories as well,
100%.
which for such a small at the time new brand, it's really hard. And then they got the collaboration.
I was gonna say, and a brand where the price point wasn't insane. Also, has a
Yeah,
lot of
never
other
was.
brands.
Like even for the jackets and stuff, it never was.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about with taking things like bomber jackets and then just like transforming them slightly to make them more witty and wacky.
Yeah, it's insane.
And then the high neckline also, which is referencing the founder, Johan.
They had a collection with like blazers, and then the lapel opened and like scarves came out, like silk scarves. That was really
Okay.
cool. And also like I always think about items that I saw on street style. I know that sounds really fucking
That
weird.
too. No, that's
And
not
it
weird, I don't think.
and it was always those like cowboy jeans, with the cowboy boots
Yeah.
embroidered on them. And so they had loads of pieces that made you think, especially as a person that like watches fashion, that they're doing very well. But like you said, you can have one day you're in, the next day you're out. Like a lot of brands this year are going to go out of business.
Oh, 100%. Like, it's sad to say, and it almost like hurts me to say because a lot of these brands I would like if they, existed and actually stood the test of time. But the reality of the business of fashion is just harsh. Those are the signs of designers that do not care anymore.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's like bedazzling at the nipples. Well, I mean, not every woman's boobies are in that position. These kind of thigh panels are interesting. I think
Yeah.
they're cool.
I think
But
they,
that's the
and then
thing.
also I think they did. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say that's also something that I found fun about Y Project because in this experimentation, some of the things would just be like a bit insane, and I think over time he was able to refine it into finding that perfect balance between like how far can I transform these everyday garments until it becomes just too far. I think it's something that he worked on over time and mastered it by the end.
There was definitely. But do you think that this might sound like what's that 80s brand? Face Map?
Yeah,
Is it Face Map?
yeah. Well,
That
oh,
was
I
only
think
a
you mean body map.
Body Map.
Body
That's
map.
it. Sorry.
Yeah, body map. Yeah.
Like they were only a couple of seasons, and their impact was like quite huge for the time. And
Huge. Oh, they had an insane impact. Till today, people talk about body map all the time.
yeah, their knitwear is insane still.
I agree.
And I think sometimes like people have this onus on like brands lasting forever. I mean, you really think about it, there's only about 10.
True.
Do you know what I mean? It's okay for them to have a period.
Yeah, I mean, you are right because yeah, you can if you make enough noise, you can actually like be remembered. It doesn't matter if like you're still not producing. So that is true because yeah, Body Map is a brand that people really talk about, and they weren't even around for that long.
Or like Boy London. And when they had that
Yeah,
revival early 2000s, Jesus.
yeah, that wasn't great, but
Yeah.
they should have left us to ponder on the past. But
But I just think, there's like a lot of brands, unless you get a huge financial backing, or to be honest, I'm surprised Y3 wasn't bought by Only the Brave.
you mean Y Project?
Yeah, that one.
I don't know because I just think it would have been too expensive. Like I was saying
Mm.
earlier that one of the reasons why they eventually had to close down is because the company was placed in receivership in September last year.
Oh, really?
And at that yeah, and at that point you're probably in so much debt, which is why you're in receivership in the first place. So if a company was buying that, they would first have to pay off all the debts, which I have no idea how much debt they were actually in.
I could
Like
probably guess.
like who knows, it could be millions, it could be. So as a business person, is that a good investment? Like, are you going to recoup your money back? Did Y Project make enough money to where you could see potential where you could make all your money back, even though in the beginning you're putting in a massive investment because you're paying all this debt off up front? So I don't know. I don't think it, as much as it hurts me to say this because I love Y Project, I don't think it would have been a good investment for anyone, to be fair. Which is why,
Yeah.
once again, I don't know why people are surprised. Like, oh my God, why didn't anyone buy the brand? I don't think it's surprising if you consider the circumstance.
Yeah, and nothing's doing very well at the moment. So
Yeah.
I love this collection.
Oh no, I absolutely love this.
The idea of like a static ruffle is kind of genius. Like with the denim, like the ruffles don't move, but
Yeah.
just the fluidity it brought is kind of just genius. Like that.
And I like that you can also change it too. You can like change the position of how it sits.
I hate to be that person, but it feels like Demna started to copy a few of Glenn's ideas.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, do you remember when they first did the first couple of collections? It was all like they're copying Vetements.
Yeah.
Sorry, girlies.
But I think, I mean, Demna doesn't, and this is something that totally unrelated topic, but I think it's interesting. Reggie did a live stream today and was talking about Japanese fashion for like 5 hours, which was really interesting because I was like listening in and then like doing my work. But a really good point that Reggie brought up is that a lot of Japanese designers will tell you where their inspiration comes from because they're skilled enough to be able to tell you where the inspiration comes from, but then still rely on their skills to be able to transform it enough to where it's not a copy. But with a lot of Western designers, they try to be like really mysterious. But it's like, we know who you copied your shit from. Like Demno, we know those incognito glasses are literally Margiela. Like,
Yeah.
you copy that homework one of one. And like we know that who's that Slavic guy, the homeless guy
Oh my
that
god, I love
Balenciaga
him.
copies. Balenciaga has literally copied his looks like word for word, like bar for bar, exactly the same. Even styled the same way, also on the runway.
Yeah, I do love that. Somebody just put Camper Lab clothing. Wow.
Jeez.
Let's not do that.
Y Project had so many good collabs over the years, like, and every single collab just hit. Y Project, the way they do collabs is the way that I hoped every brand does collabs, but a lot of brands just like do the lazy thing and cut corners and don't really do the collaboration properly. They kind of just do kind of like the Skims thing where you just take stock that hasn't sold and you rebrand it, add a bit of embroidery and call it a collaboration instead of actually like taking the time and doing interesting things. Like on their website, they have a lot of the collaborations that they've done, like the campaigns, like Salomon and Y Project, really cool. They have the Melissa Y Project collab, which I thought was really cool too. This had social media in a chokehold, in a serious chokehold. Obviously, they had the Canada Goose collab. They had the Fila collaboration. This is from the Fila campaign. Let's just mute that audio before I get copyrighted. I honestly just think that they did some of the best collaborations. You have some more Y Project Melissa campaigns. Really, really cool. They've got some other campaigns. They have the campaigns from the Canada Goose collaborations too. Let's have a look at those. Really cool. Okay, they've got the UGG campaign. Very interesting. Sick campaign. I didn't know they collaborated with Canada Goose. They sure did. They sure did. They've done loads of collaborations, and not all of them, you know, that well publicized. Like even these sunglasses, like they had a collaboration with Linda Farrow. I don't think a lot of people know about that collaboration, to be fair. Okay, so it was Spring Summer 19 where a lot of the, so let's have a look on Vogue Runway. Spring Summer 19 was where a lot of these sunglasses featured. From Spring Summer 19. 1 second. Bear with me. Love how over collections you could combine certain embellishments, snap button panels and belts with other pieces. Styling their stuff is enough entertainment. Yeah, facts. That's why earlier I said that I genuinely believe that one of the house codes of Y Project is actually the styling in and of itself. Even though that kind of sounds crazy because like styling, it's like styling. Every brand cares about styling. But in reality, it's such a core facet to what they did, especially under Glenn Martens, right? Yeah, but this is like from the collaboration. It kind of went really under the radar. So yeah, I think a lot of the collaborations did go under the radar. But take it from me, I think they did really, really good collaborations over the years. Amazing collaborations over the years. But anyway, guys, that's kind of the rundown on what's been going on with Y Project. It was good to kind of ponder and look at some of the things that Glenn Martens did during his time at Y Project and really just, you know, it's a sad day because I'm a big fan of Y Project and it's just sad when a brand that's very interesting, has a very distinctive identity goes. I don't think it's a good day for fashion. I think it's a net positive that Y Project is no longer around. But I think it's a brand that will always be remembered, a strong history, kind of what Finn was alluding to earlier. There are many brands that didn't really have a long run, but they made enough of an impact to be remembered in fashion history, like Body Map. So I hope that Y Project is remembered in that same ilk of names. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.